My name is Jay, and I want to welcome you to another episode of LJ's Comic Borough. Before you go any further, if you like what you're seeing, you like what you're watching, or you like any of the books, or hell, if you actually hate the books that I'm actually showing, or any of the comments that I'm making in the first 3-4 minutes you're watching this program, please leave a comment, subscribe to the show. I love to be able to hear from you. I love to be able to have actually conversation, which is probably one of the best parts of doing this show is reaching out and talking to people about comics or about the animals that I show off here. I want to give a big shout out to the Comic Vet, and if you haven't seen his show, please go over to his channel, watch his shows. They are entertaining as hell. Um, I actually had a few questions, and I didn't really know who to turn to except for actually more experienced people. You know, people that have had a lot of time under their belt and have a lot more followers than I personally have, and to be able to ask some questions. He took the time out of his busy day to be able to go out of his way and answer any one of my questions, which thank you very, very much, sir. He's very well known for opening up the Walmart packs, showing you how the price of the Walmart packs, and then seeing how much he actually made from it if he was to sell each individual issue. I'll be honest with you. I watched the month of DC that he put on. I thought he was actually going to lose each time, and like 5-6 times in a row, it looked really close, and then he would come up with one book that was like $12, and it would save his whole buy for that book, for those packs actually. So go over, watch his show. He's a great guy. He would absolutely love to have another subscriber. Another person I wanted to make a shout out to was Mr. Jim Bowers. He's one of my subscribers. He reached out to me and he asked me a very interesting question. He said, "Hey, if you had $100 to $200 to be able to spend on whatever key books that you'd like to get, what would they be?" And he asked for a top 10, and I thought about it for a second, but I knew which books I would put into my collection. I'm a huge Todd McFarlane fan. I'm Jim Starlin fan, so I'm just rambling off different comic books. I know I mentioned Fantastic Four annual, I think number 2 or 3, the wedding issue. So I ramble off a bunch of these comic books, and he reached out to me a couple of days later, and he's like, "I've got one of those key issues that you talk about. Would you like to have it? I'm willing to give it to you for free." And which blew me away. I appreciate it. I wanted to say thank you so much. I wanted to personally say thank you on the show. Probably the best way to be able to say thank you is to actually hear me say thank you instead of just writing it out. But thank you very, very much. You did not have to do that, and I'm actually looking forward to now getting Amazing Spider-Man 315 and add that to my collection. So, Jim, thank you. Without going any further, let me introduce to you my special co-host. Before I pick him up, because I know he's nice and squirmy at this moment, I actually picked up his two other three other cage mates from a as a rescue, and the gentleman who ended up buying him and his three other cage mates, he bought it during a time that you were buying ferrets for $300 a piece. So I was just blown away that he was willing to hand him over. And I told him straight out before he even handed him over. I said, "Hey, I don't buy rescues. You have to surrender them to me, because I'm taking on the bills, I'm taking on the responsibility, I'm taking on everything. The only thing you have to do is be able to at least give them up," and which he did. He realized he wouldn't be able to handle it and take care of them at the time, so I ended up picking up him and his other cage mates. Unfortunately, one of them did pass away. It was the albino. I renamed him. I ended up renaming him, so none of the names actually go along with, from when he dropped him off. The one I have here in the cage, his name is Mickey, and let me show him off to you here. Reason why I ended up purposely rescuing this cage is because look how beautiful this little boy is. Now, personally, I wanted to claim him as mine, but my wife looked at him and fell in love. Personally, I got him as a husband for Minnie. And if you see Minnie, you know exactly why I would do it. She's a beautiful little girl, and he is a beautiful little boy. And see, like I said, he's pretty squirmy, so he's not going to want to stay here very much longer without just wanting to get down. But he's about 3 years old, so let me put him back down as he is flipping out now, wanting to roam around the house, because normally this is his sleep time, so he's super excited. All right, now today's episode. Before I actually focus on today's episode, I once did an episode here, probably a couple weeks back, which was the 5 miniseries that I absolutely enjoyed, thought were the best 5 miniseries that I thought. Now, is it really a miniseries if it goes into 30, 40 flipping books? No. It's now just a series that, dear God, is going to make you waste your money, make you whatever. Actually, if you're enjoying the series, it's really not a waste of money, but you know the ones that you sit there and you look at and you go, why did I even buy the first 20 books? It was god awful. Well, this is this 5 miniseries that I absolutely regret. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure I have more of them in some of these boxes. But I'm going to talk about the 5 worst ones that I invested money into and feel like I think DC or Marvel owes me a dollar back at least. And the reason why I bring this up is a friend of mine came up to me and he started telling me about this new series right now that's happening over at Marvel, and it is, so far, it's actually pretty incredible. It's the Fall of X, and he talked to me and he started telling me a little bit about it. He said I'd love to be able to talk a little bit more, and he absolutely thought, which would absolutely be awesome. He actually did it here on the show. But until then, he got me into this series, and I started reading it. And so far, each comic book is phenomenal. I haven't regretted buying the first 6, and dear God, I'm hoping I don't regret buying the next 43. So, with that being said, I want to hopefully that doesn't end up on this list. But the Fall of X so far has been a great series, and eventually, after I got done reading all 500 feels like books, and in 3 years later, I'll be able to talk to you guys about it and tell you actually how I feel about these books. So, before then, let me get into this here. The first comic book that I would love to talk about is Fear State. The only thing I fear is them coming out with another series just like this that is that goddamn awful that I will be sitting there going, holy shit, that I even spent this much money on this. Now, the concept was actually pretty decent, and it had chances to go someplace, but unfortunately for me, it was money thrown in the garbage. That's all where it went. Now, if you're thinking about this, it had numerous writers, numerous artists on all the different books. It did have keys as a saving grace, that keys that'll go absolutely nowhere. Here, I'll tell you, the first Peacekeeper X, it had the first cameo of the Seer, first the Fearful, First Team Red Crown, and First Dr. Ware and Anna Volshian, or whatever that name is. I absolutely, right now, I'm going to be honest with you, doesn't mean dog shit to me. It was probably one of the worst series that I absolutely have read, and I probably will never recommend it again. And I was actually thinking about, if when I hit 100 subscribers, maybe giving some of that away to one of you lucky, unlucky people who have not read it yet. So keep that in mind, maybe, So, Batman's Fear State. Number one worst series I've ever read. Now, the second series, and I'm going to be honest with you, this series probably could have been a lot better than what it was. Unfortunately, COVID happened, so it ended up missing out a lot of the things that was supposed to happen during the comic book or during the series, because they had to cancel probably 25% of the books. On top of that, there was a lot of books for this series, and my wife was getting into it, but unfortunately, the story just seemed to each one end badly, because it just, I don't know, it just, when you're canceling books and you're not completing the story, it just, certain things just don't make sense. The best part about it, though, I will say this, it started off with Incoming. All right, a murder mystery, phenomenal start. My wife, this is what actually was the book that drew my wife in. She read this book and was like, wow, this is going to be a great series. Like I said, COVID ended up happening, and 25% of the series would ended up being canceled. So the writers for this was Dan Slott and Al Ewing, and Various and Scheide was the artist, I think. And I'm probably really ruining that name. Valerio Scheide. Sorry. It was the started off with a first one-shot murder mystery closing out the Marvel 80 year. The first cameo of Laura L. First cameo team up of the Accuser Corps. First full team of the Accuser. Laurie L. becomes an Accuser. I think the best part was the wedding of Hawkling and Wiccan, who, if you have not been reading, trying to think one of those series. Let me actually get back to that thought. First cameo of Corum, the Burning Heart, Return of the Celestial Messiah, first the Profiteer, the first Explodey Boy, Origin of Hawkling, and the first cameo team up of Cradle. And Hawk and Wickling is Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what I was going to bring up. That's a little spoiler, and I apologize if you didn't want to hear that. But that's going to be there soon. I am actually pretty excited for Hawkling and Wiccan to join the Guardians of the Galaxy. So, like I said, the series that was to follow this absolutely probably would have been a lot better. Unfortunately, again, COVID happened and completely, I think, ruined the whole series. Al Ewing did 50% of the work. Dan Slott did the other half. Both, I'm not a fan of Dan Slott, I'm not even going to lie. But Al Ewing, I'm a huge fan of, and unfortunately, it didn't resonate because of it. The next series I'd like to talk about here, and this isn't more of a crossover. This is just a mini series in general. And dear God, I'm willing to give this one away here. Batman Reptilian. There's actually no key moments there's nothing. It's Garth Ennis and Coley Hammer, writer and artist. I don't think Garth Ennis has done much with Batman, and unfortunately didn't do much with this series. Cool artwork. I do like this cover, but unfortunately, that's probably about as far as it goes for me. One of the covers, though, I will say is a little disturbing. Could be for somebody. It's like reptilian being cradled by another reptilian creature. It's a little weird. But that being said, this was probably like $30 thrown into the trash for me, because that's about as far as this series is actually worth. And what's really sad, it's because it's the Black Label, which are usually pretty good for DC, but not this time. All right. A couple years ago, and pretty much most of these series, I think all these series are all current series that could have done a lot better. The next series here is Extreme Carnage. You know, this shit right here. You know, Marvel sat there and said, "Oh, let's do this," and make you collect 6, 7, whatever of the worst books probably ever put together. Some of the coolest art, though, not this one, but some of the other books had some pretty cool art. I think the one in 50s were like the webbing covers, which were beautiful. I absolutely thought they were probably some of the most creative covers that they could have come out with. But the stories, it's about the stories. Honestly, you can't sit here and just keep looking at pictures. You want to know what's going on, and the stories absolutely suck. Each book had numerous writers and numerous artists that I don't even want to mention. Keys was the reinvention of the Life Foundation, the first appearance of Silence, and the death of Peter Crane, and the first appearance of the Planet of the Simiates, #3. Absolutely having to do with jack shit, nothing. So, like I said, this is not the book for you. You want to get a good Venom book. There's lots of. This is not it. You want a really great series. Venom Volume 4, an amazing series. Donny Cates. That's the Venom series that you want to read. This, I honestly feel like someone just shat on a piece of toilet paper and tried handing it to me. Thank you, Marvel. That's another $30 I wish I could have back. All right. This is series number 5. I've talked about this series. And unfortunately, I'm going to talk about it one more time. Now, this is the last book of the series. But it's the coolest cover, so I had to show it. Actually, Peach Momoko does a better cover for final number for this book. I should have shown that, but So, Dark Web. The garbage that lit on fire and Marvel handed us. Thank you, Marvel, for not knowing what to do with Spider-Man and handing it to Zeb Wells. Now, from what I read, Zeb Wells is doing a lot better. Have I personally invested in any more of his books at this point in time? Sad to say, the Disney books I have, I absolutely have. I have personally put some money into that. But my wife loves the Disney books. We have pets named after Disney characters, so she has no problem picking up those books, but she would have never, never, never owned an Amazing Spider-Man, especially as Zeb Wells after the shit that's been either written or I've personally have told her. She just not an Amazing Spider-Man fan. Here you go. If you want to read a series that Spider-Man is fighting trash cans and mailboxes and different odds and ends from around the kitchen, pick up this garbage right here. You won't regret it if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking for a classic Amazing Spider-Man story or hell, a good Amazing Spider-Man story, this is the stuff that you just leave in the garbage when you see somebody throw it out. It was wasted money. That's why they threw it out. Leave it in the trash. There's no reason for you to pick it up. Keep it there. So it does have some key moments. It's mostly written by Zeb Wells, except for the side stories and numerous artists. They does have some key moments. Like I said, it's got first team of the Insidious Six, which absolutely sucked. And Rec Rap. Chasm becomes King Chasm. That was probably pretty good. I mean, he went from to me, it's Ben Reilly, guys. It's Ben Reilly. I know people have their own personal thing about the clone series with Peter Parker. Ben Reilly, I thought, didn't add, didn't take away. Other people have opinions about Ben Reilly, and I'm sure I'll probably get some hate mail on that one. But it's Ben Reilly. The Chasm suit looked really cool, but unfortunately, Zeb Wells didn't know how to pull that off either. They could have did some really cool one-on-one fighting, and it really didn't happen. It was literally someone shit in a bag, threw it on my porch, and lit it on fire and said "Merry Christmas" to me. All right, but Chasm becomes King Chasm at the debut of the Limbo Embassy, and the first team appearance of the Inventors. So there you have it. 5 series that Marvel and DC both could have done without. Now, everyone's got their own opinions of what they think is the worst series. And I'm sure you guys have. When you look at your collection, you have series that you're like, why did I even spend money on this? This was so bad. It left such a bad taste in my mouth. I'd rather... God, I'd rather do anything else other than read these books and admit that I actually own them. Please, do me a favor. If you have a different idea of what you think your 5 worst are, leave me a comment. Honestly, I have no problem. I mean, it'll make me feel better if I know that other people sat there and, did exactly what I did and spent a ton of money on a bunch of books that you sit there and look at and go, God, why did I do that? Why did I do that? So, if you like what you're seeing, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. And one more time from my special co-host, Mickey. Give me 1 second here. One more special appearance here from my little man here, Mickey. You want to say sayonara? No? You're just going to look away? What better goodbye than just looking away? Another shout out here to the Comic Vet and Mr. Jim Bowers. Thank you guys very, very much. Y'all have a wonderful night. And make sure, if you ever rescue an animal, make sure you do your research well before you do it. Thank you very much.